Hello and welcome, football fans, to the Corner Flag podcast. My name is Simo, and we're about to start our round 3 fixture against Anthony Caceres, the Sydney FC star. Make sure you give us a like and follow on socials and jump onto Spotify and the podcast app, as well as YouTube. Make sure you follow us and jump on board. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy our chat with Anthony Caceres. Anthony, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, should be really excited to have you on here. Just before we do start again, make sure you do give us a like and follow on social media. Anthony's all over it as well, so I'm sure he'll give us a share too.
Absolutely.
My man. All right, so I hope everyone really enjoys the episode today with Anthony, and we're going to really try and dive behind the scenes of a really humble football star in Australia. So for those of you that are new to this podcast, we're going to chat to Anthony about football, life, all things in between. He's let me know that nothing's off limits today.
Yeah, I'll answer everything as honest as possible.
What an absolute guy. So we might dive into some controversy, we'll see, mate, but it should be pretty crazy. So last episode, we had Jake McGing from MacArthur Bulls on.
Saw that.
And we started with some rapid questions. We're going to do the same thing with you today. Mm-hmm. I dubbed his one the Stampede, being Bulls themed. And
what do you got?
I racked my brain. It was really hard to find things that rhyme with like harbour or cove or whatever. So I ended up going with the Blues Cruise. I don't know if there'll be anything cruisy about it, but we will see. So pretty much I'm just going to ask you a bunch of questions. First thing that comes into your mind, feel free to elaborate, not elaborate, whatever you want to do.
Easy done.
Yep. And we'll go from there. So like I said, feel free to go as in-depth as you want or not. If there's anything you don't want to answer, we'll edit that out in post. Don't worry. All right?
Good choice, man.
Ready to go?
Let's do it.
All right, let's jump on the Blues Cruise. So question number 1, for all the guys you've played with, who had the best banter in the change room?
Best banter. I won't say the best, but the most memorable would have to be James Donachie.
Yes.
Never a dull moment.
Yeah.
Wouldn't shut up, but always entertaining.
Yeah. Anything that sticks out? Any moments or anything you can share with us or not quite?
Nah, I won't share too much. He's pretty outrageous most of the time. But he was great company, and Retro as well. Had a few laughs with him. Yeah. Two massive personalities and good dudes.
Awesome. Love that. Love to hear that stuff. So who do you currently room with on away days?
With Bratz, the skip.
Yeah.
He's taken me under his wing. We've been roomies for ages. Obviously, we played many years together. Great mates.
And how is he? Is he clean or is he messy? How's the room?
Nah, he's good. We're both fathers, we've got our life somewhat together, it seems.
Yeah.
So we're on the same page about just about everything.
Lovely. Is there anyone that you would want to avoid rooming with, either past or present, that you've played with?
Again, it would have to be maybe Donks.
Yeah.
I like to wind down at the end of the night and relax, but I don't know. He just seems like the type of guy that would just chat all night, and not give you a second's rest.
Energizer bunny, just full of it.
Yeah, he's just always on the go.
There you go. How was Anthony Caceres, the school student?
Not very committed, I think. I think, early in my school life, I was quite bright naturally. But when it came to the point where you had to kind of put in effort and keep up, I was just, not interested. I've got a girlfriend, my now wife, Helen, which I put most of my time into back then. And so school wasn't really a priority. I always had football on my mind, and I was convinced that I didn't need school. And thankfully, later in life, I got a contract which saved me, because otherwise I would have been quite clueless. Yeah.
Always interesting to hear how athletes are in school.
Yeah.
A lot of them tend to be like that very naturally, but when it's come time to put some effort in, that effort's being put.
Yeah, well, the feedback was always the same, bright kid, but there's always that big but. He doesn't put in the effort, and it was pretty true.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And would you say, is that the opposite with you with football?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'm pretty pedantic about what I do in the game. And got a pretty strict, I guess, routine or things I've got to tick off and do in preparation to play. So quite the opposite.
Awesome. All right. Controversial one here is VAR Keep it or sack it?
Thinking, sack it. Sack it. It's the worst thing.
Yeah.
The worst. They still get it wrong.
Yeah.
They spend 5 minutes looking at the screen and they still get it wrong.
Yeah.
I think everyone will be more open to accept human error rather than, a bunch of dudes looking at a screen and doing the opposite to what we all anticipate. So scrap it, let the game be raw, like it used to be. And emotion's part of the game, whether it's anger, relief, or whatever. You got to live with the decision sometimes. And just let it kind of happen in the moment organically. I think that's the way.
And I think from a fan point of view, it is frustrating. It is like they're stopping. If you playing, you're just standing around.
Yeah, if you're playing, you're watching it on the big screen, and you know what the decision is.
Yeah,
and then it take 10 minutes to make a call that's eventually could be the wrong one.
Yeah,
it's just frustrating, and I think it stitches the refs up too. I can't imagine it making their job easier. Like it takes longer to move on from a decision or a situation in the game. Again, stop start. I just think go back to what football has always been. Live in the moment, and that human error is part of the game. Yeah, exactly. Historically, major incidents in football have happened. In the absence of VAR, and we don't want to. I don't know. Maybe create more special or dramatic moments in the game. Yeah. And VAR might rule that stuff out. So. Yeah, you think about the goals that wouldn't have been no hand of God from Diego. Hand of God, the infamous hand of God. No, nothing. So, all right. You heard it first. Anthony Caceres, VAR out. Yes, thinking. I want to know, in your current squad at Sydney, who's the best dressed? And I'm going to tell you to leave yourself out. I know you're a stylish man. No, I'm very basic, actually. Uniqlo, $25 tees, man. If you guys want to sponsor us, let us know, right? Best dressed, there's a few people that are pretty out there, but I've always liked Patrick Wood's dress sense. Yeah, hairstyle. Man, this kid, I don't know what his hair, like he's gifted, right? Because he'll come in with a blonde, dyed hair one day, shave it, and then he'll grow back 2 days later and he'll have just a brand new hairstyle. Yeah. It's like I've never seen it before. But he's got a good kid. And I think Ryan Grant's underrated. He's very, very Bondi, obviously, like real Aussie style, Yeah. Not something I could pull off, but like suits him perfectly. So what about the opposite? Who's the worst dressed? Oh, Kachowski's. For a young guy, some of the kid, come on. Yeah. Yeah, very bad. I love that you use straight away. You're like, no, it's a well-known thing that his dress sucks. Is he embracing that, or is he trying to... He knows. I think we haven't hesitated to point it out either. I'm sure you haven't. He had a horrible haircut as well once upon a time, which is sorted out now. So he's learning, taking info on board, but he's got a long way to go still. So I'm trying to improve him as a footballer and dress sense as well. Yeah, I think his football is improving much quicker than his dress sense. He's showing great signs as a player. Fair enough. Yeah. What about your biggest fear? Biggest fear? It would probably be, disappointing the people I love the most, probably. Yeah. There's not like any particular thing I'm afraid of, but I think disappointment or letting people down. Yeah. So I'm pretty pedantic about what I do in life. Yeah. That's a deep answer. Yeah. I wasn't. Yeah. Or spiders or something. Nah, that's the only thing I can really think of. That's the perfect answer. Yeah. Yeah. Well. Yeah. You don't want to let people down. Yeah. Take us in the change room now. Who's the DJ? Who's on the music? I've always been the DJ historically. Yeah. Recently, the young boys have taken over. I think that's probably indirect message that my music's a bit out of fashion now. I'm pretty old school. Yeah. My hip hop and stuff. Yeah. Random people jump on. I struggle to understand some of their choices, but it is what it is, man. I've said it before, you got to get with the times. It is the hardest job. Yeah. Ever, because you're never pleasing everybody. Nah. But there's some questionable music out these days. Like TikTok, it's not music. It's just like TikTok music, we can't be playing this in the gym. Yeah. So fair enough. Yeah. What was your first car? It was my grandfather gave it to me. Actually, it was a 1986, I believe, Ford Laser with the roof racks. Hell of a car. Hell of a car. And it was the amount of times I had to get my sister to just sit in the driver's seat and I'd push it after school to get it started. Yeah, it was great memories, and the fact that I inherited it from my grandfather, especially.
Yeah, it makes you grateful for what you have now as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But it was just kind of, it had that nostalgic feel about it, you know.
Yeah. And did you see him drive it around?
For sure. We were neighbours with my grandparents, and we were always sitting in the front yard.
Yeah.
And I was actually buzzing with it. Like, I loved it.
Yeah.
Obviously, be drifting around corners and stuff.
Of course.
The traction was horrendous.
Yeah.
We had plenty of laughs in that car with my mates. Yeah.
Very similar. I bought mine off my grandma for $400. It was an 85 Corolla. Had aircon somehow. Water.
Really?
I couldn't believe it. I didn't know what's going on. But yeah, it was same thing. I remember her driving it or whatever. And then when I inherited it, I was like, oh, it's my grandma's car, but I didn't drive it like my grandma.
Quite the opposite. I remember, like, if it rained, water would get into the boot of the car, and I'd be driving to school, turning around corners, and you just hear the waves crash in the boot. It just threw me completely. I'm like, what in the world is going on?
That's fantastic. Yeah. That is fantastic. If you weren't a footballer, what would you be doing?
Well, like we said earlier, it's anyone's guess, really.
Yeah.
I think growing up, I only had the vision of becoming a footballer. And I was convinced that I'd make it work one way or the other. So it's hard to see an alternative, really. There's no real other passion that I'm skilled enough at, I think, to make a living from. Like, I love my music. I love, stuff, creative stuff, art. But obviously I'm nowhere near good enough to be a professional. But yeah, I would have, found a way to make a living, I suppose. But football was always the avenue.
Yeah. And that's probably why you've ended up where you have, because that was your sole drive, sole passion.
Yeah, plan B distracts from plan A, I suppose.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I like it. Who is the quickest player you've ever played with?
Quickest be maybe Trent Bahaja.
Yep.
Lightning.
Yep.
And makes it look effortless as well. I hated watching him run at training. Like, I'm not a great runner. It's not my strength, like, I'm a little upright. My arms are everywhere, and he's just gliding like a cheetah. Like, it's great to watch him run.
Okay, and the opposite, slowest. And I'm going to say no keepers allowed.
Well, it's got to be Brad's. Sorry, Brad. It looks like Brad's runs like he's about to bowl, but never actually bowls.
Yeah,
that's the way I can describe it.
He's a slow bowler.
Yeah,
that doesn't deliver.
That never gets it.
Yeah, fair enough. I like his heat maps.
Like, he can play.
It's just like here. He can spray in balls left and right.
Well, he doesn't have to run.
That's right.
Like, sprint. He runs. Like,
you wonder a guy like him with his football brain and his ability in a Bahagia body, what would you get? Or is the reason that his brain and his football is so good is because it's not that sort of athlete style of play?
That's the great thing about our game.
Yeah.
There's no one right way to play it. You have a preferred way, which I prefer Bradsy's style of play, which is technique and not so much about the physical side. But, people often underestimate his work rate too, because he's not an explosive player or whatever, but he does actually cover a lot of distance.
Yeah, just not very quickly.
Just not very quick. Correct.
What about these guys? These naturally just fit players. So the fittest guy that's always smashing pre-season and whatnot. Is there anyone that sticks out?
Not really. Over the last few years, we've kind of had like an older team. You know what I mean? So, like, that worked great for me because I looked much fitter than what I actually was. But I think Ryan Grant is one of those guys that can just be fit. He's got like that country kind of strength, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's from Bathurst. I don't know what he was doing out there growing up. But I just feel like he can start running and keep running, and like, he's naturally strong. He's always in good physical shape to play football, it seems.
Yeah. Very interesting. I won't ask who the least fit player is. I won't put anyone on the show.
Don't. Yeah.
What would you say your proudest achievement in football is?
Proudest achievement would be, well, firstly, lasting so long, in the league and in the game. I think I realised longevity is a really tough thing. And it's a really important attribute. But, if I had to pick a moment, it would be winning the grand final with Sydney, having my family in the stands.
Yeah.
Definitely that one.
Yeah, pretty special.
Yeah, loved it.
Yeah. No.
And the after parties, of course, were great.
Of course. What about just away from football at the moment? What are you binging at the moment?
Man, I hate to admit it, but Love Island.
Love Island.
Love Island, man. It's trash, but it's so addictive. Yeah, it's so addictive.
Yeah.
It's just an easy watch. Like, we put it on, and look, sometimes we're just flicking through our phone, not even watching.
Yeah.
But that's what's on at the moment.
Are you generally into reality TV? Or?
No, definitely not.
Just Love Island.
And I hate myself for watching it. Yeah, and every season at the start, I say to Helen, I can't watch this.
Yeah.
And then I'm there at the end going, they got to win.
Is she into reality TV though?
Yeah, she loves it. Yeah.
So she's buzzing that.
She loves it, yeah. Otherwise, historically, I liked Breaking Bad. So that was an awesome.
That's in my top 3.
I could watch that again and again.
Yeah. And what's the most used app in your phone?
It would have to be, I guess, Instagram.
Yeah.
I have set a limit on how much time I spend on it. I just feel like, sometimes you just catch yourself scrolling at nothing.
Yep.
Where you shouldn't be. If I'm with my kids or my girls, I don't want to be scrolling. So set a reminder and just kind of focus on being a father, living in the moment.
Good on you, man. That's a big thing.
Yeah, well, it's a real problem, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. And you see the culture change. You probably see in the change room or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Shifting when you came in. I suppose that social media wasn't such a big thing, and now these young kids coming through.
Nah, of course. Yeah, it's strange to see. Sometimes after a game, particularly after a loss, if boys jump on their phones and stuff, I'm just like, bruh, we just lost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We just lost. Like, give it a rest.
Yeah.
This is the time for that. Let's just soak this in.
Yeah.
And move on later. But
do you guys have a ban on phones in the change or anything like that, or?
No, we don't. Well, if the phone goes off, like there's a call or text, it's a fine.
Mm-hmm.
But no, you're allowed to be on your phone freely. Not in the gym though. So if we're working, we're working. But I think maybe a ban is the way to go.
Might need to come in.
Yeah.
There you go. Oops. What's your favourite holiday destination that you've been to?
I've got to say Greece.
Yep.
Love it. I won't admit that to my missus since she's Greek. But yeah, what a place. It's just so relaxing. Yeah. So relaxing. We went to Kefalonia, which is like real low key, and the people are amazing. They host amazing. The beaches, obviously, and the weather. And Spain's great too. Obviously I speak the language, so it's nice to just, talk to people and get to know, the people over there. Yeah. But, we went to the Central Coast regularly growing up, and that's got a special place in my heart too.
Yeah. You spent a lot of time there as well. So, where to next? Where would you like to go that you haven't been?
Traveling?
Yep.
I'd like to take Helen to Uruguay. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
I've been once before, actually, went for a couple of months with my family. But now that I'm older, I think I'd appreciate certain things a lot more. Yeah. And I'd love to show Helen, South America and Uruguay and how we live, and, it will be a real eye-opener for her, no doubt. And obviously, I'm proud of my background, so I'd love to go over and experience the culture once again.
Yeah. How old were you last time?
I was 17.
Yeah.
16 or 17. So
guys that I was just
quite young. Yeah. I think I'd take a lot more in if I were to go now.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Very good. If I was to look through your phone, who's the biggest contact? Who I'm going to go, whoa, this person? Is there anyone that stands out? Even if you don't know them that well, you've got their number or something.
Well, I've got their Instagram and they follow me. Is that
okay? Yeah, we'll go there.
It's got to be Cavani.
Okay. Yep.
Cavani. Yeah. We played against each other in a friendly game when he was in PSG, and we got talking. He's super cool guy, super relaxed, and I obviously asked for his shirt after the game, and tagged him in the photo, and he ended up following me. Yeah. So he likes my photos every now and then, which is cool. Yeah. And obviously he was very successful in his career and with Uruguay. So I reckon he's the biggest flex if I were to point someone out. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you butchered my next question because it was the best jersey swap, and was it Cavani?
I've got to say, Yeah, maybe it was Cavani, but
Anyone else?
Xavi also.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah, Xavi. Yeah.
So when was that? When did you play against him?
In the Champions League when I was in Dubai, he was in Qatar.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's Xavi, man. Like one of the greatest midfielders ever.
Yeah.
And
how was that experience playing against him?
Oh, incredible.
Yeah.
He was like at the end of his career, but he still couldn't get close. You know, the simplicity but effectiveness in his game is just a joke.
Yeah.
He just understands what's around him, you know, so clearly, and it's got a picture painted already.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's top notch.
He's one of those guys that true football fans, like you watch a play like that, you can appreciate. May not, for the casual fan, might not appreciate all of it.
He's not gonna maybe pop up on the highlight reel, you know. But if you watch the 90 minutes, he's the one you want to watch.
Yeah, huge. And why the number 17? You've been rocking that for a while.
Yeah, no, it was just given to me at the Mariners.
Yeah.
I think I was initially meant to be 21. Then we signed Miles Stojoski, and he wanted the 21.
Yep.
And so they gave me the 17. And I just kind of liked it. It just felt right. And wherever I've gone, I've kind of, you know, asked for it and adopted it as my number.
So I thought when Ninko left that you could have been
It was tempting. It was tempting. I did wear the 10 at Mariners and City.
Yeah.
And it was tempting when Ninko left to maybe ask for the 10. But, you know, I'd won titles with Sydney wearing the 17 and I thought it served me well. So I stuck with it,
Yeah, very good. Last question for our Blues Cruise. If you, not necessarily based on your ability or whatever, but what would you choose if you could compete at the Olympics in any sport besides football? What would you do?
That's a good question.
It's a great question. I've spent a lot of time writing that one.
Never saw myself as an Olympian. Well, I guess it'll probably have to be like sprint or something.
Yeah.
100 meter sprint.
Yeah.
Obviously, I've got no chance in the world, but like if I was capable.
Yeah.
Yeah, because everyone tunes in for that. You know, the biggest name in sport, Usain Bolt, was competing in that. Yeah, I think that's probably, if I'm watching the Olympics, that's what I want to watch. You know, see someone break the world record or something. It's pretty cool.
No, I'd go the same.
Yeah.
Sprint, like that's just it's massive. It's only 10 seconds. And
exactly.
Everyone's
peak human performance, basically.
Yeah. All right, lovely. Thanks for that, mate. We're gonna change gears a little bit now and go into your career, if that's all right.
Yeah, nice.
Lovely. All right, Anthony, we're going to dive into your career now. I suppose your life and your career around football. So can you tell me your first memories of football?
The first memories I have will probably be sitting in front of the TV watching old Nacional and Uruguay football games with my old man. Yeah, he would just kind of make us sit in front and brainwash us to an extent.
Well worked.
Yeah, it did work actually. And then obviously going into the backyard and kicking the ball around with my old man and my sister. Yeah, that's basically how football started, really, watching it.
And that was my next question. Obviously, your sister Mel was playing for the Wanderers.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up with, because there's a couple of years between you guys, but you've got someone there to kick a ball with.
For sure.
Is that something you did a lot growing up? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. She was super competitive from a very young age. She obviously wanted to do everything I was doing. She wanted to wear football jerseys. You know, if we had a mufti day at school, she'd wear the home kit, I'd wear the away, something like that. So we're always like playing football together. But she was a hell of a competitor from an early age, super stubborn, loved to compete, and she was obviously super talented, you know, so it wasn't like I was kicking the ball around with my little sister who sucked.
Yeah.
She was actually decent, you know, if we wanted to play two-touch, she was capable. So, yeah, it was great. Great growing up with her. We had a lot of good memories, a lot of funny ones where she'd kind of, you know, I guess join in when we were playing with the boys and someone would kick her and I'd have to go up and sort the guy out. It'd end up in a fight, you know, real like sibling type stuff.
If anyone's
you know
beating my sister, it's me.
Yeah,
right?
correct, man. You know, real brotherly kind of stuff. Which, looking back on it, it's nice. You know?
Yeah. Well, we had Jake on last week, and obviously his brother Liam played as well, and they didn't actually get to play against each other in the A-League. But I was like, if two brothers are going to kick each other, I mean, I'm letting that go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we saw like the Holmans play against each other last week.
Yeah.
So I think it's always special, kicking the ball around with your sibling.
Yeah, of course. And where did you play your local football as a junior?
Started at Prairie Wood United. I believe Danny was playing there, my cousin.
Yep.
That you know pretty well.
Yep.
And so we started there. That was awesome. I met my best mate, William, playing for Prairie Wood. We're still mates to this day. He was my best man at my wedding. And from there, we just kept it local. We played at Kenley Heights. And as I progressed and got a bit older, we ended up at Marconi. So always kind of in this southwestern Sydney area.
Mm-hmm.
Great park, raw, football memories that I have. Yeah, real kind of Latino, heated park soccer stuff. It was really, it kind of set the foundations for my passion for the game.
And I think a beautiful area to grow up and play football in that sort of Fairfield.
Very diverse.
So cultural.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, well, we grew up playing against Marconi, Sydney United. They all had their identity. We were just a bunch of Latinos that formed a team at Prairie Wood or Canley Heights.
Probably had the cheapest rego, so everyone was like,
yeah, exactly. We had a great group of mates. We had a great group of mates that all shared the same passion for the game, same backgrounds, obviously, and it was really special. I really enjoyed that part of my childhood.
Yep. And how did you go from that park football into rep footy? Like, how did you make that move?
I think I went to Marconi soccer schools on school holidays from memory. And the person running it was actually Oli Bazanich's old man, Vic, I believe his name is, Vic Bazanich. And we got to know Vic, obviously, and he said, hey, you got, a bit of talent or whatever, and he recommended that I go to try out for Parramatta Eagles, Melita at the time. And having not known anything about, this level of football, just kind of casually playing park soccer, park football, we just went, sussed it out, and obviously it was a jump in level. And then I just ended up trialing out and making it there. And that was kind of my introduction to, I guess, the top level as a junior. So funny enough, it was Ollie's old man that kind of, opened our eyes to that possibility. And from there, just stayed in the Premier League, they called it, I believe, back then, playing for Melita and then on to Marconi.
Lovely. And you went to Westfields?
Yes.
Yes? Yeah. How was that experience? Because obviously playing football at Marconi, you're training a couple of nights a week, whatever, but you're training every day at Westfields.
Yeah.
How did that sort of put you in stead for that eventual jump into professional football?
I'll take it back for you a bit. Okay. I tried out for Westfields 3 times. And I didn't make it at all. I think I was year 5, when I was in year 5, 6, and maybe year 7, I tried out. And they just beat me 3 times. And I was just fuming. But all my mates were going to go to Westfields as locals, because we lived in the area. The school that I was meant to go to was actually Fairvale. I was much closer to Fairvale, but we actually changed our address when applying for the school, just so I can go to Westfields with my mates. So we did a shifty.
It's unlike South Americans.
It's very out of line. But I wanted to go there. All my mates were there. And so I went as a local initially up until year 10. And we obviously in PE, you play football and stuff. And the PE teacher thought, man, this kid is actually okay. He can play a bit. So he recommended me to Trevor Morgan, who was in charge of the football program back then. And obviously Trevor knew me already. And so he invited me to come train with us, And at the time I was like, man, just stop playing games, man. Just tell me be in or you know me already. And so I still had that bitterness from the past. And part of me was saying, nah, just beat them, they don't deserve you, that old but I got to play football at school, so no brainer eventually. And I think that joining the football program probably, I think, gave me life in professional football. I think it was the one thing that helped me make it, Firstly, the training I got was like no other. They were great coaches, Trevor, Casey, Oscar Gonzalez, amazing coaches. Because back then you train at Marconi a couple nights a week. You probably don't get too many tactical sessions, like tactics to me were such a foreign concept. Football to me at the time was just give me the ball, I'll do something, and that's it. There was no roles, responsibilities, and I went to Westfields and they opened my eyes to another side of the game that I'd never experienced, and so there I feel like I really kind of dived into the game, in a much more deeper level. Started analyzing my game, started thinking about the game, tactically, and it was Westfield's recommendation for the Mariners that got me a trial with them to get into their youth team. So without them, I probably wouldn't have had a look into the A-League setup at all. So they're people I'm grateful for, definitely.
Yeah. And who did you always like to find, especially if we go to schools like Westfields, whatever, who did you go through with? Like, who was in your grade? Who did you play with there that's gone on to, play in A-League or overseas or whatever?
Yeah, we had many talented players. Bernie, Beanie, Matty Ryan, Mustafa Amini, Petrados, Antonis, Brendan Hamill. Yeah, there's a fair few. We had a great team. The football we played there was, I've got to say, it could be the best football I've ever played in my life. Like collectively as a team, the understanding was incredible. We obviously tried to mimic, the principles of the best teams in the world, even that we were only school students basically, but the coaches drove us to play this sort of football, and it was super enjoyable. To this day, I don't think collectively I've been part of such a organized team with such a great understanding of the way we wanted to play like that team, believe it or not. It's crazy to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, super talented team and just great coaches as well.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to play there.
Yeah. And then you obviously touched on, you got a trial with the Mariners through that recommendation from from Westfields. Once you got in there into the youth team, did you move up there? Were you traveling? Like, what was your situation?
Yeah. So firstly, with the trial, I remember I'd been out for like 3 months with a bad ankle injury, and I wasn't ready to play yet. But I was that desperate to kind of crack it into the setup that I just rocked up to the trial injured. And I remember I was working at a warehouse doing pick and pack at the time. I left work, went to this trial, and hobbling, did my couple stretches. There was no pre-ab back then, nothing. And I was that convinced that this was the only opportunity I was going to get, so I made it work. And then I got into the team, and I was still kind of like working at the warehouse and stuff, so I was traveling up and down. We were training at Knox Grammar, actually, in Sydney, so I didn't have to go all the way to the coast. But
is that because you had a lot of Sydney boys in the team? Or?
Yeah, I think just about everyone was from Sydney. But then when I got invited to train with the first team, I'd obviously have to make the trip up to the coast. Thankfully, we did have the caravan at Twin Bay Caravan Park, which was our holiday destination, so I ended up staying there. And I stayed, me and Kwabena Apia Kubi would drive up and down. I'd pick him up through Parramatta, go up, stay a few nights, come back, go to work. It was a crazy time, I wasn't earning much money, but the dream was alive. So, you did what you had to do.
Yeah, and you obviously went to the Mariners through Westfields, and a few of those guys that you mentioned earlier went with you.
Yeah,
do you think that helped you then transfer into the first team? Because obviously some of those guys started to get call-ups.
For sure. Yeah, Matty Ryan was already established in the A-League by that point. Bernie as well, Musti. So I went into that team knowing those guys, and they helped me adjust to life and gave me confidence to believe that I belonged there. So it was great having them.
Yeah, thankfully. Yeah. So from the Mariners, Melbourne City was next. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Via Manchester. So
absolutely.
I want to go in on this one because this is probably not just in your career, but in probably in A-League history. I reckon one of the most controversial moves and out of it came the Caceres rule. Because at the time, for those people who don't know, A-League teams weren't allowed to pay transfer fees to each other. I don't think are they now? I don't think they're allowed to now.
I think you can.
I don't know. Not sure. But
there's loan deals and stuff now. I know that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there's direct transfers.
Yeah. So, and that was in place at the time to protect clubs from overspending and going under or whatever.
Yeah.
And obviously, Melbourne City came in. Apparently, you wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that could happen was for you to go and sign for Manchester City as part of the City group, and then they loaned you back to Melbourne.
That's what happened.
Correct?
That's what happened. Yeah, so it was a weird time at the Mariners. The people in charge were making horrible decisions, to be honest. The club wasn't performing at any level, not off the field, not on the field. And, it was tough because I had been there when the club was extremely successful. We had won the league with Arnie. And then the following year with Mossy, we were very successful with a young team. We went all the way to the semi-final whilst juggling Champions League at the same time. And so that year, it was tough. I was, I guess, made responsible for the lack of results in a way, and they ended up not wanting to play me. I was quite young, so I took it pretty personally. I wasn't really happy in a good headspace, and so I wanted to leave. And I guess my agent did his job, looking for other gigs. I was actually close to coming to Sydney at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I had Sydney, Victory, Wanderers, and City. So I was pretty close to coming to Sydney, but obviously the transfer is not possible. Mariners wanted a fee
because you still had time on your contract.
I still had another year, I believe.
Yeah.
But anyway, things progressed super quickly, and next thing I know, I'm being signed by Manchester City. I remember my agent called me. He goes, "You won't believe what's gonna happen." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Man City are gonna sign you." What? Man City are going to sign you.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, all right, man, whatever. And then I just in the call, I'm like, this guy's taking the piss. And then it's legit, turns out to be legit. So I'm flying to Melbourne to meet with, Simon, I forgot his last name, but he's a real important figure in the City group. And, they're selling me the dream that I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, I'm going to play abroad, whatever. And that's it. Always what I wanted. I wanted to be tied to a big club and play football abroad. So this was a dream for me. It turned out that being a mid-season transfer, the best option at the time was for me to play for Melbourne City on loan.
Yep.
Because obviously clubs were established, and so I ended up there. And then, it was, I guess, a rocky start. I got sent off twice.
In your first 4 games. My next question. How do you overcome? It was big news, man. Because
it was massive.
You've gone over Man City, Melbourne City, all these things.
I think also the move was misinterpreted. I don't think the sole reason for signing with the City group was for me to play in Melbourne City.
Yep.
You don't pay a transfer really for an A-League player to go to another A-League club when his contract's almost up. It makes no sense. So I do think the grand plan was to, City invest in players. They hope they blow up, explode, and they make a bit of money.
Like Aaron
Moy. I think that was the plan, Things obviously didn't go to plan, halted by a crazy start at life in Melbourne City, which I put down to a mixture of over-enthusiasm and horrible refereeing.
Yeah.
It's true, because I've looked back at those fouls, and obviously I replay them over and over again after they'd happened, and I couldn't believe I was sent off for what I was sent off for. After all the so-called controversy around the move, to start life like that in Melbourne was quite difficult, to tell you the truth. It did kind of play with my head.
Especially with how much publicity that move had.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone had an opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
this is a stitch up, or this is the negative. There was still positives and whatever.
Yeah, but we kind of have that habit,
of course,
to tear people down. Yeah, it's kind of like I don't know what it is, to tell you the truth. You know, like
it's,
a lot of
it's
people,
reality here. You know,
it is. Yeah. Well, we all claim we want, you know, Australian football to progress, players to get better, and all that, but then we want to tear people down as well. So
Yeah.
you know, it's a bit of a contradiction, isn't it?
Yeah, and especially if the plan was obviously to go with Manchester, and then because they've got clubs all over the world,
absolutely.
try and find something that would
Network
suit
of
your
clubs.
style.
Yes.
Obviously, didn't work out. Did you get over to Manchester at all?
I didn't.
No?
I was fuming. I wanted like a tracksuit or something.
Something,
you know.
yeah.
Bratsy got one.
Yeah,
yeah. He spent some time over there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, you've butchered some of my questions because you've already touched on it. But those couple of red cards first game, you ended up establishing yourself in the team, like you said before. You got the number 10 jersey, like that's a big deal at any club.
Totally.
I want to fast forward a little bit to when Warren Joyce took over.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure you'll explain it more eloquently than me, but there were obviously some issues there. And eventually, I just remember he came out and said that you're going to be a key player. It might have been after you'd left and come back. That you were going to be a key player for him, and then you left like a couple of days later. Like it just seemed, it was a really strange one. And I did some research, and it was Cahill, Fornaroli, Kilkenny, who was player of the season the year before, Jacobson, he was the captain, Brandan, and yourself, all left during Warren Joyce's, you know, and that's six or seven players who probably would have walked into any other team in the league.
Yeah.
So what does that come down to? Is that because, you know, he was a youth coach at Man United and whatever, had all this backstory. Is it because could he not manage those older guys, or was he just trying to get his own spin on the team? What do you sort of, you know, or was it one thing in particular, or all separate cases?
Yeah, it's a strange one, the case of Warren Joyce. You know, I've been left without clarity with him, you know, and I honestly don't hold anything against him, right? Because funny enough, I'll touch on this later. I should probably rewind. So, yeah, he came in, I guess, after a season where we had a great team at Melbourne City, but we underachieved massively. I think at the time it was probably a cultural problem amongst the team. We weren't exactly unified, you know. It seems to have changed in recent years at City. I think they've gotten it right. Obviously, slow start this year, but in the last 3 years, I think they got that aspect right.
Yeah.
So anyway, he was brought in. We had begun pre-season with him, and a month into pre-season, Dubai came up. So I got an offer from Dubai and
Al Wasl,
yeah. And I had to take it. You know, financially, it made sense to take it. It was life-changing money, some money that I would never get playing here.
Yep.
So I had to take it, and it was purely financial. And I don't think he could wrap his head around that. You know, he wasn't happy that I was going. But I had to go. So I left. And the whole time I was over there, I was kept in touch with Brad, Bruno, all the boys. And they were saying, Joycey wants you back. You know, like he asks about you all the time. You know, will Cass come back? And they're like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, he'll come back at the end of the season. Because I was on loan in Dubai. And then when I was over there, the season was about to finish. I was in touch with Warren Joyce. I called him and I said, no, I want to come back. And I ended up going back, and I thought, all right, this guy, you know, he desperately wanted me to be part of his team for a long time. Now I'm here. I'm going to, you know, have the backing of the coach, make it work, and I'll do whatever it takes to succeed in my second stint at City, because I felt in the first there were great moments and low moments, and obviously we hadn't won the league as a team, which we should have with the squad that we had. So I was extremely focused on succeeding. And when I got back, he was just on my case all the time, right? And, you know, he accused me of coming back underdone physically. You know, I went over there to waste my time, stuff like that, which I just took, you know. I'm like, yeah, fair enough. If that's what you think, no problem. And he wasn't playing me. He just wasn't playing me all of pre-season. He goes, you're not fit enough, you're not strong enough. He called me weak and stuff like that, which I probably was. I never did gym, you know. I just thought my ability was enough. And one thing I am grateful for is that he pointed out that it's not enough, you know, especially in the modern game. You got to be physically very strong, very fit. And, you know, I'm grateful that actually he provoked that kind of change in me. So I started hitting the gym pretty heavily. I put on a lot of muscle. I came back super skinny from the UAE. Like I wasn't in, you know, a strong shape. I got extremely fit. We did this tormenting line run, he used to call it, where you got to go 6 yard back to the line, 18, halfway. It was terrible.
Yep.
Super old school approach to football.
Yep.
But I embraced it. And I convinced myself that round one, I'm going to be a starting player. I did everything he asked. Come round one, he started me. You know, he said, you've done everything I've asked. And I was buzzing. I'm like, good. You know, and I had a real sense of achievement that a coach for the first time provoked change in me. And he challenged me. And I'm like, you know, he's not that bad. Like, because he changed my game. He made me better, you know. And then I played round one, and I never played again. I'm not sure why. Yeah, that wasn't that bad. I actually wasn't.
Yeah.
We played Melbourne Victory, we won, and yeah, I put in a solid performance. Like everyone else, it was a derby, you know, and it wasn't like a pretty game, but and I never played again. Like I was in the stands, I was on the bench, and he didn't put me on. And I kept doing exactly what he asked of me. I was super confused. And there were many times where I just confronted him. I'm like, bro, like, what's your deal? Like, you got a problem with me? Or what have I done? And he goes, oh, nothing, you know? So nothing. And then before I knew it, I was looking for another club. So, like, there was no, like, you've done this wrong, you know? Because I hadn't. I'd literally ticked every box that he asked. But it's just one of those things that I thought in the moment, you know what, I'm just going to accept. It's not meant to be. It's not going to work. But at the same time, I'm grateful for the experience because it changed the way I thought about the game. It changed the way I dealt with setbacks. You know, like previously at City, my first stint, I believe I had scored round one against Wellington, and then I was just on the bench. The next game, and I couldn't believe it. You know, I was like, we won thanks to my goal. You know, and now I'm on the bench. And I reacted poorly. I just sacked it at training. I wasn't putting in the effort, you know. And that was probably the young me not being sensible enough to say, nah, I'm going to make this work. I just kind of, you know what? Screw you. And that affected me. You know, I wasn't prepared for the next opportunity that I got. And so with this experience with Warren Joyce, he kind of provoked this, I guess, stubbornness and kind of driving me to bet on myself and prove people wrong the next time round. And I think I've become a better player because physically I'm much better than what I was.
Yeah, a lot of growth.
Thanks to his
nonsense. But it just goes to show there's so much more to making it and being a team, whatever, than just your performances. At the end of the day, there's one person who's picking if you're in the team or not.
Absolutely.
And for whatever...
Sometimes there's no reason.
Well, that's right.
Just because. And I think the best thing you can do is accept that just because and just focus on what you do, you know, and that way you can go home and say, I did what I had to do.
Yeah.
You know, not left wondering, oh, maybe I should have just kept going or, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that prepared me for the success and the tough times in the years that followed.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, football fans. That's the end of our first part of our interview with Anthony Caceres. So we're going to dub this one the home leg, very similar to our Jake McGing podcast. Make sure you give us a like and follow on social media. And as always, jump on Spotify, podcast app, YouTube, jump on all that as well. And make sure you try and pass the cast, which I'm dubbing as now how you spread the love for us. So let your friends know, give it a share, and stay tuned for part B, the away leg with Anthony Caceres, coming soon.